Pete.
Okay, good morning. Welcome to the Board of Liquor License Commissioners for Baltimore City's Tuesday, August 18th, 2020, Webex virtual docket. Today, the board will be hearing violation cases. I will quickly go through a PowerPoint presentation to let members of the public know how to access the hearings. There is a link that I'm now showing members of the public. If you wish to access the hearing using a smartphone, a computer, or other similar device, please use the link and the access code. If you do not have access to a smartphone or similar device, you can call in and listen to the proceedings at the numbers listed below. Materials and evidence, there's a copy of our docket, which is posted on our website for August 18th, and there's a link to the schedule. Evidence, all evidence that we receive other than testimony should be submitted to Ms. Stacey Russell at least 48 hours prior to the hearing. If there's any documentation that individuals want to submit on the date of the hearing, we strongly discourage that. That may have to lead to a postponement. Procedures for the docket, I will be reading the cases. At that time, I will be pulling in the members on the witnesses, licensees, and their representatives onto the panel where you'll be sworn in by our court reporter. At that time, we will present our case. There'll be a question of whether you admit or deny. If it's a denial, it'll be a full-blown hearing, and you'll get an opportunity to present your case and question any kind of witnesses. The board will then be able to question witnesses, and then the board will make a decision. The board will be asking if there's any individuals in the public who wish to give testimony. At that time, we'd ask you to use the raise your hand function so that we can pull you into the panel and you can present evidence. Afterwards, the board will go forward with the sentencing phase. Just general ground rules about the hearing. Please mute yourself when you're not speaking, so minimize the feedback. Please speak slowly and in a clear voice so the court reporter understands what is being said and who is saying it. Please refrain from using profanity or being disrespectful. Any unruly parties may be expelled from the hearing. We ask you that you also, if you do have a computer or a smartphone, that you're in an area that's well lit so that we can see you. And the court reporter can see you, more importantly, so that you can be sworn in. And with that, Mr. Chair, I have two preliminary matters.
Please.
Case number 2, Martha Puryear, Special Peas LLC, trading as Special Peas Bar and Lounge, 2738 Baker Street. This matter has been postponed and will be docketed on a future date. Case number 3, Aaron O'Hammonds and Samari Wyatt, Shipyard Investors Incorporated, trading as Shipyard, 3500 O'Donnell Street. This matter has also been postponed and will be scheduled at a future date. With that being said, I'm going to call the first case, Mr. Chair. Herbert Portillo, Restaurante El Salvador Incorporated, trading as Restaurant El Salvador, 207 South Broadway. This is a Class D beer, wine, and liquor license, a violation of Rule 4.16, illegal conduct, March 17th, 2020, and a violation of Rule 3.12, general welfare, March 17th, 2020. I'm going to pull in the detectives. This is Detective Gatto, Detective Leischer, Detective Greenhill. I'm pulling them all on. Mr. Chair, we did serve this location, and we do have the signed summonses, and Ms. Russell can verify that, but the licensees have not, and nobody representing the licensees have checked in.
You want to hold it until the end?
Would you like me to do that, or we can move forward now?
Well, we only have a few cases. Let's hold it for a few minutes.
Okay, all right. Then I'll call the next case on the docket. Since I actually have the officers as a part of the docket, Mr. Chair, may I go out of order and go to case number 5, since I have already pulled the officers in?
Yes.
Calling case number 5, Nathaniel Alton Brown, Jr., Lust Entertainment, LLC, trading as Lust, 408 East Baltimore Street. Class BD7 beer, wine, liquor license, and adult entertainment license. Violation of alcoholic beverages rule and regulation 4.16 on June 25th, 2020. A violation of alcoholic beverages rule and regulation 3.12 general welfare, June 25th, 2020. A violation of rule of alcoholic beverages rule and regulation 4.16 illegal conduct, July 12th, 2020. Violation of alcoholic beverages rule and regulation rule 3.12 general welfare, July 12th, 2020. Violation of adult entertainment rules and regulation 3.10A sanitation safety, June 25th, 2020. Violation of adult entertainment rules and regulation 3.18A illegal conduct and codes compliance, June 25th, 2020. I'm now bringing in Mr. Peter Previs and making him a panelist. He is with his client. And all officers, and I'm unmuting all officers, and I'm unmuting Mr. Previs as well. Can everyone please turn their cameras on so they can be sworn in by the court reporter?
Okay. Please raise your right hand. Okay. And will the licensee, can you raise your hand? I just can't see it. Looks like we're losing the video for Mr. Previs on the licensee. Oh, okay, I see it. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, or under penalty of perjury?
I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes. For the record, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Peter Previs on behalf of the licensee, Mr. Brown. We will deny the violation.
Okay. And Mr. Brown's been sworn.
He has, Your Honor, Mr. Chairman.
All right. So who's going to proceed to the board?
I believe Detective Greenhill, this is your police report for the 25th and the 12th.
Yeah, I had the police report for the 25th and the 12th. All right, go ahead and start for the 25th.
Yes, sir.
Now, once I finish with the 25th report, do I go right into the 12th report?
Well, let's pause and see if we get some questions, okay?
Okay. All right. On June 25th at 1:10 a.m. of this year, your writer, Vice, responded to 408 East Baltimore Street, which identified as Club Lust, for a complaint of overcrowding. On 19 June 20, the city of Baltimore reopened the bars and nightclubs to include adult entertainment nightclubs, and they all had to adhere and follow a set of executive orders that was issued by Mayor Jack Young, issued on 19 June of 2020. One of the criteria indicate that all liquor establishments must maintain and allow 50% capacity of their establishment. Since then, your writer has been ensuring that all liquor establishments maintaining their 50% capacity is based on a fire permit of the individual establishment. On 22nd June of 20, your writer spoke with licensee Nathaniel Alton Brown and advised him that he has to maintain a 50% capacity of the establishment known as Club Lust, which means he must maintain a capacity of 43. His first and second floor capacity is 87. So how we deem that it's got to be half that 50% capacity, got to be half that number. The current capacity of both clubs, first, second floor, is 87, as I stated. On 25th June, your writer did a capacity check of Club Lust and found the licensee's second floor to be over capacity by 50 plus persons. At that point, I advised the licensee to have his security personnel allow no more customers inside the club. The licensee agreed not to allow any more customers inside the establishment at that time. The investigation was complete and left in the control of Mr. Brown. Report forwarded to the liquor board.
Okay. Ms. Previous, do you have questions? Where is everybody?
Mr. Priebus's audio is on and his video is on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Do you have questions?
Detective Greenhill, you indicated that you spoke with Mr. Brown on June 22nd.
That's correct.
I'm
Your
sorry.
internet connection is fading, Mr. Priebus.
Where is everybody?
We're here, Judge. Mr. Priebus is having network issues.
Can he phone in?
Oh, he may be coming back. Mr. Priebus?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello?
Hello, yes.
Am I back? Okay, I'm sorry.
You are,
I
but
don't
you're
know
a
why
little
I
delayed, Mr.
faded out.
Priebus.
Everybody's speaking over one another. I can't hear.
Okay, should I try calling in?
I think so. This isn't working.
I'm sorry. Can we just move everything back closer to the router?
What are we doing?
Mr. Priebus, you can call and I'll just, you can mute your, I'll mute you. Just use your phone and use the call-in number, okay?
We're trying now.
I'm gonna give you the call-in number now. Do you have the call-in number? So I'm turning to the slide with the call-in number. Just use your phone and I'm gonna mute you right now, okay? Okay.
You do.
Harry?
Yep.
Is this you, Mr. Priebus?
Yes, it is.
Can you please take yourself
Yeah,
off
it is.
speakerphone on this phone?
Yes, it is.
Okay, Mr. Priebus, now you're able to talk.
All right, let's proceed.
Go ahead, Mr. Priebus.
No, can't hear him.
Can you hear me now?
No.
I can, Mr. Priebus, please take yourself off speakerphone on this phone. Just please use the phone.
Am I on speaker? I'm not on the phone line. I'm just on the.
Hold on. There we go. There we go. Okay.
Is that what it was you were feeding back?
Mr. Priebus. Your Honor, hold on. Your Honor, I would suggest with Mr. Priebus having the issues that he's having that we just recall this case.
That's fine. Let's move to another case.
Okay. Calling, this is going to be case number 4 on the docket, Angie Seafood, Ilya Prado and Angela Price, Angie Seafood Incorporated, trading as Angie Seafood, 1727 East Pratt Street. Is a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license, a violation of Rule 4.16 illegal conduct, May 1st, 2020. A violation of Rule 3.12, general welfare, May 1st, 2020. I'm now going to bring all the parties in. I've made panelists of Mr. Fogelman. I've made panelists of Agent Perez, and I've made panelists of Inspector Tudhope. Agent Perez and Inspector Tudhope, please turn on your cameras.
Okay, can we swear them in, please?
Raise your right hand.
Please raise your right hand. Thank you. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, or under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Thank you.
And I didn't hear the licensee.
I'm sorry, you couldn't hear whom?
The licensee.
Say it loud.
Oh, I do.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Fogelman, you identify yourself for the record, please?
Thank you. Stephen W. Fogelman on behalf of licensees Elia Prado and Angela Price.
Are they going to be admitting or denying?
It's a brief denial.
Okay. Agent Perez?
Yes, sir. On May 1st, 2020, myself, alone, and Inspector Joe Hope were conducting business checks throughout the city of Baltimore. At that time, the order was that all restaurants and bars should operate for carry-out and delivery services only. At approximately 9:51, we drove past 1727 East Pratt and observed a large flow of customers coming in and out of the establishment, as well as a large number of cars parked in front and also in the parking lot of the location. At approximately 10 p.m., we walked into the establishment and observed several individuals waiting for carry-out on the bar area. At this time, I proceeded to conduct a brief inspection of the establishment. I walked into the side dining room of the establishment and observed two tables with patrons seated, eating dinner and consuming alcoholic beverages. I notified Ms. Angela Price of the violation and left the establishment without any further incidents.
Fogelman, you have questions?
See you. So,
Mr. Fogelman, your mic's on.
okay, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, Inspector, good to see you. Just a couple quick questions. Did you definitively determine that alcoholic beverages were being consumed? The report indicates that what appeared to be alcoholic beverages in at least one case.
It appeared to be alcoholic beverage.
Okay, and what makes you say that? Can you smell it? Did you taste it? I'm not asking you to do.
I didn't conduct any of the following you just stated.
Oh, no, I mean, how did you determine it was most likely alcohol?
I observed the bartender mixing drinks.
Saw the
when I
bartender
walked
mixing
into the
drinks.
establishment.
All right.
That made me assume that what those individuals were consuming those type of beverages.
Okay. All right. Was she polite and cooperative?
Yes, it was.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much, Inspector.
Do you wish to put on evidence? Mr. Fogelman?
Thank you very much. I'd just like to call Angela Price, licensee, briefly.
Okay.
Thank you very much. All right, Ms. Price, you are Angie of Angie Seafood?
Yes.
All right. You've been in business for about 3.5 years? this is your first alleged violation?
Yes.
All right. Tell me about night in question. May 1st, you tell me about keeping the doors locked to make sure you were keeping the requisite amount of people in there.
Right, we kept the doors locked to let a certain amount of people in.
I can't hear her.
Okay, start over. I'm sorry. Somebody called in. I'm sorry. I've declined. So, Miss Price, please tell us about the doors being locked.
Yeah, we kept them locked so we wouldn't get over 10 people. But it was hard to control to keep 10 people in. It was really, how the word? It was stressful. And then when some people would walk out, then maybe a couple people would come in. So that's why I would keep the door locked. So I'd had somebody watch the door. So when the inspectors came, the door was locked. So they waited for someone else, for customers to come out before they came in.
Okay, thank you. And then the 11 employees that are mentioned by the inspector at the bar, did any of them have any food and drink in front of them?
No,
What were they doing?
waiting for their carry-out.
Okay, and then the inspectors mentioned one person drinking what appeared to be an alcoholic beverage at a seated table.
Yes.
What was that?
One person, it was a guy sitting by himself. He had juice. He wasn't consuming, but
What was he doing? Waiting for
waiting
food?
for carry-out.
Okay, tell me about the two
The two
females.
girls, they had wine and they had food, but they were waiting for some more food, and I didn't realize they were eating out their box. They wasn't supposed to. But I couldn't control it. I didn't really see it until the inspectors came in because I was at the bar and they was on the other side because of social distancing, so they wouldn't be.
So you did not know that they were eating food out of the box?
I didn't know.
All right, since that time, what
and
have
it's
you
hard to
done?
hear.
What did you do immediately thereafter to comply?
These are on all the bars and the door.
And what does that say?
It says no eating out of box.
All right,
And also, we have security that controls the people that comes in now and make sure they have their face mask on.
all right, thank you.
So,
Thank you very much. Anything else very briefly?
no, that's it.
Okay, thanks. That's all I have except for argument.
Okay, and do we have public comment on this, Mr. Acker?
If there are any members of the public that wish to provide testimony at this time, please use the raise your hand function. Mr. Chair, I see no individuals that wish to give testimony in this case.
Do the commissioners have questions?
I don't have any questions.
Mr. Guy?
I have no questions.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you. The basis then of the materials contained in the charging documents and the—
Your Honor, Your
What?
Honor, I want to make argument. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you wanted to make argument in mitigation.
No, I'd rather, if
All right.
you would. Thank you very much. So I hit on this a while back, and I've got to go back to it. The governor's order is knowing and willful violation of the order. This is not like our typical rule violations, but where we treat it with a strict liability standard. Once the lawful or the law requires intent, requires knowing and willful violations, then the board cannot look at these from a lens of strict liability. It's clear from the evidence she did not know that people were consuming out of the boxes, or she would have put a stop to it. So that's why I'm asking that the charges not stand. Thank you.
Okay. I'll deny that motion. And anything further?
No, thank you very much.
Okay. On the basis of the materials contained in the charging documents and the testimony received, I would find a violation of Rule 4.16 on May 1, 2020, and a violation of Rule 3.12 on May 1, 2020. This occurred during a difficult time when there is maybe some confusion, and perhaps the way to enforce these executive orders was not clear. And I would give the licensee some credit for the fact that it's not easy to determine how best to do this and stay in business. And she's been in business for 3.5 years with no prior violations, so we give her a great deal of credit for that. But she has to be more careful going forward about this. in order to try to comply, because it's a very serious situation with this COVID-19 and it spreads very easily. So as to each violation, I'd impose this time a $100 fine and give her 30 days to pay.
Thank you, Chairman.
Commissioners?
Okay. I also filed a violation of Rule 4.16, illegal conduct, and of Rule 3.12, general welfare, both taking place on May the 1st, 2020, and I concur with a fine of $100 for each violation.
Mr.
Thank you.
We still have Commissioner Greenfield?
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry. I've been being muted and unmuted, probably on purpose. I too find a violation of Rule 4.16, illegal conduct on May 1st, 2020, as well as a violation of Rule 3.12, general welfare on May 1st, 2020. As the chairman said, this is a very serious time, but we also recognize that this licensee has not been in any, has not had a violation since her ownership. And I also recognize that she's trying to do the right thing and would agree with the imposition of a $100 fine for each violation with 30 days to pay.
Thank you all.
Medical exhibits for the record. Board Exhibit 1, Violation Report, Agent Perez. Board Exhibit 2, Governor's Executive Order. Exhibit 3, Governor's Executive Order. And Exhibit 4, Governor's Executive Order.
Mr. Vogelman, please note that we'll be sending you physical correspondence in the mail regarding the board's decision and time for payment.
Thank you, Mr. Ackers. Thank you all.
Mr. Ackers, did we ever get anybody in for the first case?
I did not see anybody in for the first case, Your Honor.
Let's take it up then.
Okay. Recalling first case on the docket, Herbert Portillo, Restaurant El Salvador, Incorporated, trading as Restaurant El Salvador, 207 South Broadway. There's a Class D beer wine liquor license, violation of Rule 4.16, illegal conduct, March 17, 2020, and a violation of Rule 3.12, general welfare, March 17, 2020. I'm going to be pulling in. All the detectives are present and they were previously sworn in. So I can unmute all of the detectives right now. Detective Leisher, Detective Greenhill, and Detective Gatto, I've unmuted.
Okay, we want to provide us as to these violations.
Detective Greenhill, are you going to be providing testimony on the violation?
Yes.
Can't hear.
A lot of background noise.
Okay.
Go ahead, Detective Greenhill.
All right, on 17 March of this year at between 9:10 and 9:15 p.m., your right along with members of VICE were conducting business checks in the 200 block of Broadway. The purpose of the business checks was to ensure that all businesses complied with the governor's executive order instructing all restaurants and bars to close for indoor seating and socializing. Restaurants can open only if they provide delivery and/or carry-out services. As mentioned above, while conducting checks, members of VICE observed two customers sitting inside of Restaurant El Salvador, located at 207 South Broadway. As we walked in, we observed two customers who were seated with napkins and silverware on the table. Your writer observed a waitress coming from the kitchen area carrying two plates with food on them to serve to the customers seated at the table. The waitress looked startled and confused as we walked into the restaurant. There was a male gentleman seated in the rear of the establishment that was later identified as the licensee, Mr. Herbert D. Portillo. Your writer advised Mr. Portillo that he can only open for delivery and carry-out purposes only. He was also advised he cannot have customers seated inside of his restaurant. Your writer asked Mr. Portillo if he received his letter from the liquor board explaining the facts of the governor's executive order, which he replied no, he did not. The two customers had already left the restaurant, and again, Mr. Portillo was advised that he could only open for delivery and/or carry-out. At that time, the investigation was complete and establishment was left in the control of Mr. Patillo. Report forwarded to the liquor board.
Do the commissioners have questions for the detective?
I have no questions for him.
Lieutenant Greenhill, or Detective Greenhill, I'm sorry, I'm giving you a promotion.
Thank you.
No, you deserve it, in my opinion. Were they cooperative?
Yes.
Okay, even though they didn't seem to know the rules, right?
According to Mr. Patillo, yeah, he said, because I remember prior to all this, a letter was being sent out to all the liquor establishment, and he claims he didn't receive his letter, but he was still cooperative.
Okay, thank you.
Is there public comment, Mr. Akers?
If there are any individuals that wish to give testimony in this matter, please use the raise your hand function. Mr. Chair, I see no individuals that wish to give testimony in this case.
Okay, thank you. On the basis then the materials contained in the charging documents and the testimony received, I find a violation of Rule 4.16 on March 17, 2020, and a violation of Rule 3.12 on March 17, 2020. Mr. Portillo has no prior violations, and he's been in business since 1999. So, like the prior licensee, there may have been some confusion. I don't know if he has a language issue because he didn't seem to understand the order, and he hasn't appeared today, which is odd. But to be consistent, I would, again, taking all these things into consideration, the newness of the orders and the good record that he has, impose a $100 fine as to each of the violations to give him 30 days to pay.
Commissioner Guy, I also find about the restaurant El Salvador in violation of Rule 4.16, illegal conduct, and violation of Rule 3.12, general welfare, that took place on March 17th. I found the restaurant owner in violation, and I concur with the fine of $100 for each offense, with 30 days to pay.
I too find a violation of Rule 4.16, legal conduct on March 17, 2020, and concur with the imposition of a $100 fine given his record and the confusion. I also find a violation of Rule 3.12, general welfare on March 17, 2020, and concur with the imposition of a $100 fine, again, given his lack of violations and perhaps some confusion, and would encourage Mr. Ockheimer and Inspector Perez to perhaps meet with Mr. Portillo to make sure that he's up to speed.
Thank you.
Medical exhibits for the record. Board Exhibit 1, Baltimore City Police Department Report, Detective Greenhill. Board Exhibit 2, Governor's Executive Order. And Exhibit 3, signed summons dated August 1st, 2020.
Thank you, Ms. Russell. Mr. Chair, what we will do is we'll make sure that the board's decision is hand-delivered by an agent to the licensed establishment so that the licensee gets that information.
Thank you. Let's recall case number 5.
Okay, we're calling case number 5, Nathaniel Alton Brown, Lust LLC, trading as Lust, 408 East Baltimore Street. And there are numerous violations. I won't recall them all since we've already called them. And I'm going to bring Mr. Priebus on.
Okay.
Okay. I've made Mr. Priebus a panelist, and I'm going to unmute him now. Mr. Priebus?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can.
Okay, I'm sorry. We're having crazy internet issues. We've gone through both computers, and now I've dialed in. So okay. I think I have video on Harry's computer, and we're on the telephone.
All right, Mr. Priebus, you were doing cross-exam with the detective. You want to proceed?
Thank you, sir. All right, Detective Hill, the order that is at hand in this case was issued on June 19, 2020. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and you have been very proactive in visiting the establishments on the block and
Yes,
over with them the requirements that were then in effect. Is that right?
that's correct.
Okay, and Lust did not open immediately on June 19th. They opened a couple days later, that following Sunday on the 21st. Is that correct?
That's correct, but I was off that following Sunday.
Right, so that you had to go ahead and meet separately with Mr. Brown and Lust to make sure you went over the ground rules with him. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and you met with him on June 22nd, and you walked through the establishment, and he had taken certain chairs out of the first and second floors of the establishment to get the place in compliance with a 50% order. Is that right?
Well, as far as the walkthrough, I didn't do that. Didn't know he took out chairs and stuff like that. That wasn't discussed. I just explained to him what the executive order criteria follows.
Okay, did you notice at the walkthrough that he had removed certain chairs or turned certain chairs around?
So, well, in the first floor, just from what I saw, he just looked like a bar, and I explained to him that the chairs had to be 6 feet apart. But as far as I know, it just, like I said, it just looked like a regular bar, and he just had his chairs set up.
Okay, and when you went in the establishment on the 25th, the first incident, you indicated that there's 2 floors and each has a fire rating capacity of 87 under normal circumstances.
That's correct.
So you divided that by 2 and rounded down and came up with 43 persons for each floor. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, in the violation notice, it indicates that he had a patron population that did not exceed 50%. I'm sorry, I'm misreading from there. You indicated that it's a patron population, not a total human being population.
From what I saw, it was overcrowded by the standards of 43.
Okay. So what was it? Was it over 50 people or 50 people over 43?
50 plus persons over 43.
So like 93? Is that what you're saying?
From what I saw, it had to be at least between 50 to 60 people. Either way, he was over capacity. He was over that capacity limit of 43. If we would have counted his dancers, that would have put it way over from that point.
Okay, I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm trying to understand what you've written on the report. So he didn't have 93 people plus dancers and staff. You're saying that it went over into the 50s beyond the 43. Is that what you're testifying to?
Yes, it went over beyond the 43.
Okay. Did you do a count, or did you take any photographs, or how did you establish that?
Just off of observation, I tried to do a count, but it was just, like I said, it was just too many people to do a count. And everything was on my body-worn camera.
Okay. And did you, was Mr. Brown present on the first incident?
Yes.
Was he polite and cooperative?
Always cooperative.
Okay. And did you notify him then that you would be submitting a report to the board, or did you tell him to reduce the people, or how did you handle it at that point?
At that point, I just told him not to allow any more customers inside the club.
Okay. Now, after that incident, but before the second incident on July 12th, Mr. Brown had texted you asking for clarification as to how you count people, and it was your understanding at that time that that was the patron population and not the staff and the dancers. Is that right?
Yeah, that was the patron population. Yes.
Okay, and since that time, everybody's learning as they're going. You now have the position that it counts everybody in the establishment. Is that right?
Well, that's as of now, but like I said, between the 25th and the 12th, we were just going on for just patron population.
Okay, so now you came back on a Saturday night, July 12th. And you again observed, not on the first floor, but on the second floor, that the patron population went over 43 people again?
Again, yes.
Okay, and Mr. Brown was present on the premises,
Yes, he was.
and he was on the first floor, and he came up?
He was on the first floor. I went up on the second floor just to check, and then the Central District called me down. They had went upstairs and did a check and saw it was overcrowded. So I came down, and from what I saw, it was extremely overcrowded that on the second floor that night.
Okay, and that's you're saying that was over 43 patrons, not counting the dancers and staff?
Yeah, it was. I count from what I saw. It was pretty packed. It had to be more. It was at least in my report on the 12th. It was 80+ persons, not counting the staff and the dancers. But I might add, he did tell me he had between 36 to 40 girls as far as contractors and dancers working that particular night on the 12th. But I didn't
Okay.
count them. But at that point, it was highly overcrowded that particular Saturday night.
Okay, and then on the first floor looked okay to you?
The first floor has always been okay. Anytime I did checks, his first floor has always been between 15 to 20 people, not counting the staff and the girls. But for some reason, his second floor is always the issue.
Okay, and he indicated to you on that occasion that he was having an issue with patrons wandering upstairs before he could alleviate that situation?
Yeah, I mean, he was telling me that some customers would come on the first floor, and then after a while, everybody would just go up to the second floor. He even said at one point that he had shut the music down and made an announcement that he's got to even out. So I'll have to admit that he's been trying, but at the same time, it's for the only reason I respond out is from the Central District. They call for overcrowding, and once I get there, the determination has always been where his second floor is overcrowded. I mean, I attribute some of the issue is to some of his security staff. They're not, each time that I go and do a capacity check of his second floor, his security staff is not able to give me an accurate count. So that there's some issues with his security staff as to why they can't keep an accurate count at all times.
Okay, and then after that happened, everything got closed again on July 16th. Does that sound about right?
Well, I don't have the July 16th report in front of me, but it was pretty much the same thing, over capacity, yes.
No, what I'm saying is that there was a new mayor's order that had everybody shut down, and then there was a subsequent mayor's order that had 25% capacity. My point is that Mr. Brown has kept the establishment closed since that first closing order. Is that right? He didn't even try to open when it went to 25%.
Well, he couldn't open because he doesn't have an operational kitchen.
Okay, but at the point that we had all the confusion on that first Friday night, he didn't even try to open, did he?
What, talking about on June 19th?
No.
I mean, you talking about June 25th when he
That's fine.
on June,
I have no further questions.
On June 19th when everything first opened, it's not the fact he didn't try to open. I'm sure he didn't know he could open because there was a lot of confusion about what bars could do and what bars couldn't. That's why the first initial investigation wasn't until June 25th, because like I said, he had opened up that June, it would have been that June 21st.
Yeah, well, I was talking about the most recent order. I think it was August 4th or August 5th.
Well, I mean, the most recent order again that came out, bars can't open anyway unless they have an operational kitchen, and most of the bars on the block, if not all of them, don't have operational kitchens. So it's not like you kept it closed. You couldn't open.
Mr. Previous, did you have here? Do you have any further questions for the detective?
No, I think he needs to clean up the July 12th though, because I went over into my cross, so I don't want to confuse anybody.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think Detective Greeno also has to testify to the July 12th, right?
Yes, we have.
Well, Mr. Previous also referred to a couple of statements that related to July 12th. I didn't even get to read it in, but he added information to the July 12th as far as the 25th closing. So, like I said, I didn't get to read it in. You're right, I didn't get to read it in, but Mr. Previous did pull information from the July 12th as far as the cross-examination.
We haven't gotten there yet. So
yeah, I know, but Mr. Previous felt the need he could pull information from that as well.
I understand.
Just trying to be fair.
Do the commissioners,
at least let me read it in. That's being fair.
Mr. Previous, do you want to put on testimony, or you want to wait till we do both of them?
I will have Mr. Brown testify briefly as to his understandings, but other than that, I think Detective Greenhill should finish up, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Detective, could you give us your report for the July 12 violations, please?
All right, on July 12th of this year at 1 a.m., your writer of ACS Vice responded to 408 East Baltimore Street, which is identified as Club Lust, for a complaint of overcrowding at the request of Central District officers. On 19 June, as I mentioned, the executive orders as far as reopening for the bars is only at 50% capacity according to the fire permit. All right. On June 22nd of 20, your writer spoke with the licensee of Mr. Brown, advising him that he has to maintain a 50% capacity at the establishment known as Club Lust, which means he must maintain 43 persons. Okay, on 12 July, your writer did a capacity check of Club Lust and found the licensee's second floor to be over capacity by 80+ persons. The licensee, along with his security staff, also stated they had between 36 to 46 girls, contractors, dancers working. There's new information concerning the amount of dancers working now adds to the capacity of the establishment. At 1:15 a.m., your writer advised the licensee not to let anyone else inside the club. And furthermore, your writer advised the licensee, Mr. Brown, to close at 1:30. The licensee agreed to not allow any more customers inside of the establishment, and at 01:30, the establishment Club Lust was closed, clearing everyone out of the club. At that time, the investigation was complete and left in the control of licensee Mr. Brown. Further investigation, Mr. Brown advised your writer that he had some remodeling work done to the second floor during the closure of the establishment as a result of COVID-19 pandemic, which could possibly add to his capacity at the second floor. With this new information, your writer had tried to contact investigators from housing as well as inspectors from the fire marshal's office for an updated inspection on the second floor of Club Lust. Report forwarded to the liquor board.
Do you have questions for the detective as to that incident, Mr. Previous?
Very briefly, Mr. Chairman. Again, Detective, he was polite and cooperative, and he agreed to close at 1:30.
Yes.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Do you wish to present this as well?
Yes, Mr. Brown would like to speak briefly, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
How you doing? Mr. Brown, I want to see if you can hear him okay.
Can you hear me?
State your name.
My name is Nathaniel Brown.
Can you hear him okay?
Yes.
Great. Now, Mr. Brown, first of all, with regard to the last comment that Detective Greenhill made about doing improvements, what is it that you did?
Well, we made it a little more better for social distance. We took out the couches and put in stools so that we can separate people from each other.
Okay. Now, with regard to the first incident, you were on the first floor when Detective came in?
Correct.
Okay. And when he went up to the second floor, did you go with him to the second floor or at some point go back up?
I go back and forth through the floors.
Okay. Now, what is your observation with regard to whether you went over 43 people, not counting staff, on June 12th?
Well, I know that our capacity is 87 upstairs, 87 downstairs. Break it in half, it's 43 and a half per floor, total of 80 people in the building, 86 people in the building. I don't believe that I went over upstairs. The problem comes in where people mingle from the downstairs bar into the upstairs bar. We try to keep it in control. Like when Detective Greenhill came in, he actually observed both floors. Yes, it looked good on the downstairs floor, but 2 or 3 minutes before he walked in the building, I believe that some of my customers walked into the upstairs. And the other problem with the walking into the upstairs is one of the dressing rooms is upstairs. So dancers from the downstairs floor go upstairs to change. Dancers, they're up and down.
Okay. Now, with regard to the July 12th, when Detective Greenhill called your attention to the second floor, you said that you did observe that too many of the downstairs customers did go upstairs at that point.
Correct.
Okay. So you concede that point.
Correct.
Okay. Now, since all these various orders, have you decided just to stay closed until things get back to a little more normal?
I just feel like with us being a small business, it's nothing like the casino or anything. We can't keep up with. We can keep up with the standards, but it's a little hard with the level of our club, how it's set up. So I decided I wasn't going to open until everything gets better.
Okay. Thank you. I have nothing further, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioners have questions?
I don't have any questions.
Commissioner, I have no questions.
Okay. Do we have public comment, Mr. Akros?
If there are any individuals who would like to give testimony in this case, please use the raise your hand function to testify now. Your Honor, I see no individuals from the public, members of the public who wish to give testimony. Mr. Previs, could you please put your hand down? You keep raising your hand. Can you please put that down?
I'm sorry. Got it.
No, Mr. Chairman, I don't see any members of the public that wish to give testimony.
Okay, let's proceed. Did you have anything further, Mr. Previs?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to note that for the first incident, there are 2 liquor board charges and 2 adult entertainment charges. And for the second incident, there are 2 liquor board charges. And I just want to make the comment that it's basically the same conduct charged 4 different ways in 2 different ways. So if you find him guilty, I ask that you take that into consideration, that it's one thing charged 4 ways.
So I'm going to take into consideration everything in the charging documents and the testimony received, as well as argument. From my perspective, Mr. Brown has had this license for a little over a year, and based on Detective Greenhill's testimony, he's consistently cooperative and is making some efforts to comply with what, frankly, are rather confusing executive orders. And given the situation of this particular establishment with all the people that he's talking about, I can't imagine that it was ever the intent to have that many people in one space at a time, but perhaps it was permitted under the earlier orders. Anyway, there was a great deal of confusion about compliance on the June 25th incident, and I would give him credit for that confusion and dismiss those charges. But by the time we come to July 12th, he should have been clearer with respect to what the requirements were, because Detective Greenhill had gone over it with him. So I'd find a violation of Rule 4.16 on July 12, 2020, and a violation of Rule 3.12 on July 12, 2020. And given that he has no prior violations, I would impose $100 fine as to each of those, and I'd give him 30 days to pay. Commissioners?
What?
So I want to make sure, Mr. Chairman, I want to make sure I understand your decision. Are you striking or dismissing the
June 25 violation?
You are? I'm sorry, I missed that. Are you dismissing the June 25th?
Yes.
Okay.
Commissioner Guy, I also find that Club Bluffs is in violation of rule of alcoholic beverages, rule and regulations on 4.16 illegal conduct. And on violation of alcoholic beverages rule and regulations, rule 3.12, general welfare, both taking place on July the 12th. I find them in violation, and I concur with the fine of $100 for each violation.
I'm gonna slightly differ with my colleagues. I find a violation of Rule 4.16 on June 25th. I find a violation of Rule 3.12 on June 25th and would impose a $100 fine for each. As to July 12th, I also find on the adult entertainment license on June 25th, Rule 3.10, they're in violation and would impose a $100 fine. And similarly, for Rule 3.18 on June 25th, I'd find a violation and impose a $100 fine. As to July 12th, I concur with my colleagues and would find a violation of alcoholic beverage article or alcoholic beverage rule 4.16 on July 12th and would impose a $100 fine. I also agree to violation of rule 3.12 on July 12th and would impose a $100 fine. And that would be it. Thank you.
Exhibits for the record. Board Exhibit 1, Baltimore City Police Department report, Detective Greenhill. Board Exhibit 2, Baltimore City Police Department report, Detective Greenhill. Board Exhibit 3, Governor's Executive Order, and Exhibit number 4, Mayor's Executive Order.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, that would conclude the board's hearings for today. Mr. Previs, you will get correspondence in the mail regarding the board's decision and payment.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everyone. We will be back on Thursday.
Yep, board will be in recess until August 20th, 2020 at 11 a.m.
Thank you.